Okay, in the first session, we covered the processes of the risk management process. And I know that you are flooded with a lot of risk management definitions and the concepts, basics, and it may be most of you are confused with the expressions. Let's try to make life easy. We will have risk management scenario, company scenario, virtual company, and we will try to implement all what did we studied in the first session in this scenario. We have a company. This company is called XYZ company. And this XYZ company, it's based in Saudi Arabia. It's in Riyadh. Riyadh, it's the capital, and it has the head office. And it has a branch in Jeddah, Dammam, Jubail. These are different cities in Saudi Arabia. And also it has an office in India. This company, we are specialized in developing on-shelf applications and customized applications. What is the vision? The vision for this company to becoming the leaders in digital transformation market. To become leaders in digital transformation market. And we want the mission of the company, we want to standardize approach and tools that it will minimize failure of software projects. This is the mission of the company, and we are specialized in providing customized applications and on-shelf applications. These are the goals and objectives for the company. I will leave you for 1 minute just to have a look on it. Okay, the company structure, as you can see, we have a CEO. Under the CEO, there are 4 managers, financial manager, we have HR manager, we have sales manager, we have technical manager. Under the technical manager, we have system and infrastructure manager, we have service desk manager, we have developer manager. And of course, there are representatives for these services. Okay, what is the risk scenarios? We will have 3 risks to implement what did we studied in this company. Scenario number 1, customers and partners privacy data leakage. Of course, you know this, it's a crisis now, especially if you have any information for European citizens, because this means that you are violating the what we call the GDPR. You are violating the GDPR rule. Scenario number 2, customers' applications codes are stolen. You know that this company, we are implementing these companies, we are implementing or we are developing softwares, and they have the code for the applications which is developed for the companies. Then now these codes are stolen. Third scenario, the XYZ company website is out of service due to the distributed denial of services. These are the scenarios which we want to implement the risk management program over these risks. This slide, it will remind us with the processes which we highlight for risk management program: context establishment, identification, analysis, evaluation, treatment, acceptance, monitoring, and risk treatment plan. Okay, well, let's go now to the risk management program objectives. Why XYZ company want risk management? Why they want to develop X risk management program? We said that we are doing things for reasons. What are the reasons for this company if you want to implement this program? Number one, they want to secure the XYZ company assets. Makes sense. They want to protect their assets, then they will be able to achieve their objectives. Also, we want to identify and classify XYZ company risks then and its effect on business goals and objectives. Very clear. Again, they want to be able to achieve their mission, objectives, goals without any interruption. Evaluate XYZ company risks and what will be the appropriate action to handle these risks. Define the acceptable risk level. This is very important. What is the risk level acceptable by the company? What is the risk level acceptable by the company? And this, which we call it acceptable risk level, this is the risk which the company it can accommodate without affecting the business goals and objectives. It may be a small loss, and this it will not be a major value for their operations. They want to monitor and measure the existing identified risks. Monitor and measure identified risks, and to know what are the new emerging risks. Well, these are the reasons or the objectives why the XYZ company they require the risk management program. We defined first thing in the process. What are the objectives? Mainly, they want to protect their assets to be able to achieve their objectives and goals. We mentioned that the leadership and the commitment. It's very important that the leadership and the commitment, they will provide support for the program. Why? To provide them or to provide the program with the required resources. This is very important. And when we are saying resources, it's not only funding, it's not only money. It may be money, it can be people, it can be facilities, it can be hardware, software, tools, buildings, transportations, whatever it is. Then whatever any required resources, it should be provided and it should be secured by the management. Also, it's very important to communicate the importance of the risk management program to the employees. Employees, they are your key stakeholders. You have to explain to them what is the benefit of the risk management. It's not a waste of time, but this it will help them to identify the vulnerabilities and risks in their operations and daily operation, and it can be highlighted then they will be able to achieve their goals and the targets very easily. Also, the risk management, it should be integrated in the business processes and the daily operations. This is very important. In some organizations, they will never do any action until there will be a risk assessment. If they discover that there is no risks or the risks are minimum, or even if they have the critical risks and they will take the appropriate controls and mitigation, then they will go ahead and continue with the action. Otherwise, we have to avoid this task at all and stop it, because this it will create risks, and this it can affect the company goals, objective, repetitions, financial, and so on. Also, we have to, the management, we have to encourage the risk-based management decision. Whatever any management decision, we have to understand what are the risks and what are the consequences which it can happen if we take this decision or if they did not take it. And finally, of course, we have to review the risk management program if it's effective and it is able to achieve its objective. These are the points of the leader management and commitment for the risk management program. Also, we mentioned that it's very important that you have to assign a risk manager. You have to appoint a risk management program manager. It's very important to have a responsible person who will be able to design the activities and follow up these activities. Also, we highlight that the owner, what is the risk owner and who is the risk owner? We mentioned that the risk owner, this is the person who is be able to manage the risk and its effect. He will be the person who manage the risk and its effect on the organization. Here, XYZ company, they define that the risk owner, he will be the business owner. Business processes owner. Why? Because as we mentioned, business processes owners, they are the best persons who understand the process and the assets and what are its vulnerabilities, threats, how this it will affect the organization processes and activities. Then the XYZ company, we took a decision that the risk owner, he will be the owner for the any risk. Then if I have a manufacturing process, for example, and I discover 5 or 6 risks, then the owner, he will be the business process owner, and he will be responsible to manage these risks and work with the risk team and IT security team to minimize these risks by installing the required controls. Risk management policy. Again, the risk management policy, it's illustrate the management intent. It illustrates the management intent and commitment for the risk management. We have the risk management, the management of the XYZ company. They have to define what is the objective of the risk management and how we want the risk management to be integrated with the XYZ processes and activities and daily operations and all this stuff. This it will be very clear in the risk management. Then in the risk management policy, what we have to include in the risk management policy. We have to include the objectives. I think we covered the objectives in the previous slides. Roles and responsibilities. What are the roles and responsibilities regarding the risk management and the integration of risk management with business processes and with daily operations, and to encourage the risk-based management decision and improve the risk culture in the organization. In some organizations, people, they are afraid to speak. They are afraid to say that in this process we have a problem or we have a weakness, because they are saying that this can create a problem with our management or with the top management. But of course, this it's a big problem, or I consider it from my point of view as a crisis, because if you are knowing that there is a problem and you are not able to speak because you are afraid that your manager or your management, it will not be able to understand, and this it will be against you, then this means that this company, there is no way to be improved or developed. But we have to encourage the risk of the culture risk, and to highlight the presence of the risks, and to mention their opinions and feedback, the stakeholders to mention their opinion and feedback, and how we can fix all these problems and these risks. Methodology, you have to define what is the way of doing the risk management. Of course, this is the time, it will not be enough, but we have 3 or 4 different methods for the doing the risk management. You can Google them in the Google site, and you will get a lot of information about this different methodology and choose what it will be suitable for your organization. The risk management approach. Risk management approach, we have 2 different approaches. Asset-based approach or scenario-based approach. Asset-based approach, this means that you are taking asset by asset and check for vulnerabilities and the threats which threaten these assets. Or scenario, it will be a scenario. For example, as we mentioned, the data, personal data of the customers are leaked or stolen. This scenario. This scenario, it has multiple assets. It has servers, databases, network, internet connections, switches, routers, a lot. When the asset based, it will be a specific asset, but scenario based, it will based on scenario and it consists of multiple assets. Quick question. What do you think it's better? Is it the asset based or scenario based, and why?
Scenario based would be the best approach because it will, recognize, or it will get, the best approach on the business goals and objective to understand their processes and their, other support functions for the risk. So to my knowledge, I think scenario based would be the good one.
Okay. Any other opinion?
Maybe it depends on the context, like asset-based risk approach. When you're scaling, when your scope is smaller, and scenario-based risk management, when your scope is bigger towards the organization goals and objectives.
Okay. Any other opinion? Okay. Here, usually in life or practical approaches, you have to use mix and match between both scenarios. Each one of them, it has its pros and cons. Asset based, it's very easy to highlight the assets, vulnerabilities, threats. But usually when you will have an attack, it will not affect only one asset. It will affect multiple assets maybe, or something like that. When if you have any attack affect multiple assets, then you are in a trouble here, because the effect of multiple or different threads on different assets, it will be different. It will not be the same. And maybe risk number one, it will affect the asset one with high, but if risk two, it will affect the asset two with risk low. Then the scenarios, it will, I mean the accuracy here, it will not be high. In scenario based, if you provide a specific scenario and you make your calculations and preparation for it, this again, it will not be 100% accurate, because whatever you assume in the scenario, it will never happen exactly the same in life. There may be some changes, but again, it depends upon these changes. If there are major changes, then your preparation, it will not be properly suited for the real situation. Then what is the best approach? The best approach, mix and match. You have to define the assets and you have to work on on the scenarios, both of them together at the same time. This, it will be the best approach for the risk management.
Yeah, Osama, but just one question on this. If we
Sure.
say the mix and match approach of both asset based and a scenario based, so is there any kind of percentage wise that we could look upon that,
No,
30% something? Yeah. Okay.
No, it depends upon the organization context. It depends upon the nature of the assets. Because if you are working on tangible assets, it will be totally different from intangible assets.
Right. Got it. Understood.
Excellent.
Yeah, great.
Okay, basic criteria. And this, which we mentioned, that you have to define the basic criteria. This, I think this, it will clarify the basic criteria. Basic criteria to evaluate the analysis, impact analysis. It's very simple. We have here 4 levels: low, medium, high, critical. Whatever any impact or cost less than 15K, it will be low. Between 15 and 30, it will be medium. Between 30 and 45, it will be high. Between 45, more than 45, it will be critical. Okay? This is very simple. We have to make this fixed. Why? Why do I need this? Because your risk assessment or risk management, it must be consistent all over the organization. If one division uses risk management, we have to use the same criteria as the other organization, other division. It's nonsense that financially it will say, okay, impact analysis, whatever any cost less than 10K, it will be low. But in manufacturing, we are saying 15K. And maybe in other departments, we are saying 20K. Then this means that the results of the risk management, it's not consistent all over the organization, and it will not represent any real value for the organization. We have to define fixed criteria and fixed values, then it will be standard all over the organization. Then in the impact analysis, this it will be our basic criteria. For the likelihood, low, if it will be risk, it will happen once every 3 years. Medium, once every year. High, 1 to 5 times every year. And critical, more than 5 times per year. Of course, this is a sample. You can have your own, instead of 4 categories, you can make it 10. It's up to you. I don't care about the number of the categories. It depends upon your organization, and if you have the time and you want to make it more sophisticated and all this stuff. This for our scenario. How to calculate the risk level? Here we will consider low, it is 1, medium 2, high 3, critical 4. Then if we say risk level, it will be the risk impact times risk likelihood, and the risk impact, it's low, then means that it's 1, and the risk likelihood, it's medium, it's 2, then the risk level is 2. Okay, then this is the method of calculating the risk level, the risk impact times risk likelihood. Risk acceptance. You remember when we say the risk acceptance, and we said that when we accept the risk, we will accept the risk if its impact, it will not affect the organization, or if the company, it can accommodate this risk. XYZ company here, they took a decision that whatever any risk level less than 2, it will be accepted. Any risk level less than 2, it will be accepted. Risk evaluation. What is risk evaluation? Risk evaluation, if you remember, we mentioned that this to compare the calculated risk level with the risk acceptance criteria. Risk acceptance criteria here, it's less than 2. Then whatever any risk level less than 2 will be accepted and only monitored. There will be no additional treatment option. There will be no additional treatment option. This for the evaluation of the risks. Okay, we covered the first process. Any questions before going further in context establishment? Okay. Then, in the context establishment, as we mentioned, we have to understand the organization context. What are the factors it will affect the company? So in some situation, you may need to have SWOT analysis. You have to search for the strengths, weakness, opportunities, threats, study for the company. Then you can figure out the assets and the asset value and its threats, vulnerabilities. You have to define the stakeholders and their interest and requirements, and you have to define the risk management objectives. And we covered these risk management objectives in the first slide in the previous process. Also, determination of the basic criteria, as we defined the basic criteria in the last slide. Impact evaluation, we accepted our risk acceptance evaluation, and the other factors, and you have to define the scope and boundaries for the context. Okay, in risk identification, if you will do the context establishment properly, this means that you will be able to discover the assets. And if you will do the context establishment and understand the organization through the mission, objectives, goals, and so on, we will find that we have two types of assets. The primary assets as software development life cycle, because they are developing applications for the customers, the developers team, service desk processes and activities. This is very important because anyone who will buy their application, they have to provide support and services for these applications. Also, we have to provide security for application codes and information, security and privacy by design process for software and application development. Also, whatever any other assets which it will support the primary assets, it will be considered as supporting assets, as network, internet connection, servers, workstations, laptops, hardware, software, whatever the other assets which it will support the primary assets. Now, in the first thing in the identification, you have to define the assets. And now we define the assets. We define the processes, activities, and we define what are the supporting assets as well. You have to define the assets value. And we mentioned that in the assets value, you may have direct cost and indirect cost. And this asset value, it will be very important because this means that you have to concentrate on the assets which it represent a critical value for the organization. When you don't waste your time, efforts, money in risk assessment for low value assets. During the asset value calculation, you have to take in your consideration the direct cost and the indirect cost. The direct cost and cost of replacement, the cost of operation efforts to integrate it in the company infrastructure, and revenue lost due asset unavailability. And the indirect cost, we lost business opportunities, reputation loss, market share, financial loss. All this information, it should be taken in your consideration with the indirect cost. You have to define what are the threads, and I think in this you will find that I covered the points which we discussed in the first session, that we said that the threads, you can start with some pre-configured or categories, ready categories, and these categories you can get it from the ISO 27001 or from, 27005 or the NEST, or you can to have a steering committee for risk assessment, which we say that this will be subject matter experts, or you have contact person from each business division, when he will be able to explain you all the threads. And of course, the risk development team, which it will work with all these sources and collect the required information. The same, it will be valid for the vulnerabilities. The same concept. Again, you have to work with 27005 vulnerabilities categories or with a steering committee, contact person, risk management team, and so on. When, as we mentioned, when you say vulnerabilities, you will find that it's very related to the threats. What is the consequences? What are the consequences? The consequences, it's very important that you have to understand what are the consequences of the threat on the company assets. And this, it will be very important to understand that the business processes and asset owner experience. This is the most important, because this, it will be very helpful to understand what will happen if the asset, it will be unavailable, or if it's hacked or whatever. Then this, it will be very important to understand the business processes and asset owner experience, and also understand the impact on XYZ company assets, and how this will affect XYZ company goals and objectives. And this, it will be provided again by the business processes and owners, assets owners.
I have a question in here.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah. This asset owner and business owner, are they both the same people, or they are different?
Asset owner or what?
Business owner.
Okay. You are asking a little bit complicated question, because usually in standards we are defining that we have 3 types of users who are working with the asset. The asset owner, custodian, or asset owner, asset custodian, asset user. Asset owner, this is the person who is paying for this asset, and he is the one who is responsible for it, and he have to define who will use it, what are the permissions required to use this asset, and what are the protection required, and so on. The custodian, he is the deputy, the person who will work or manage these assets on behalf of the owner. The asset user, he is the user who will use this asset. For example, I am working in an organization and we want to buy telephone sets. Then the communication department, it will be the owner of the phone set, and the user, he will be the or the IT department, it will be the asset user, because they will use it themselves. These are the real definitions from the standards all over the world. But unfortunately, in life, we found that there are 2 different types of other 2 owners, which we call it business owner and technical owner. For example, you may have SAP application. And with SAP application, we have an owner for business who is responsible for the business, for manufacturing, for trading, for whatever, and all their mind and head is in the technical area. Although in other situations, there may be other technical owner. Who is the technical owner? The technical owner, he will be the person who will be able to manage the device and the databases and the applications and the switches and all this stuff. Then here it depends upon your organization. When you will say asset owner, is it the business owner or technical owner? It depends.
Okay.
Okay.
And under a business owner, there could be several asset owners, right?
Sorry?
Under a business owner, there could be several asset owners.
No, we will not call it owner. Here we will call it custodian. Under the asset owner, we'll have multiple asset custodians.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. You have to define the existing controls, of course. This, it will be very important. And now let's have the first scenario to analysis the scenario. The scenario, customers and partners privacy data leakage. You will find here, of course, the consequences. It will be bad reputation in the market. You will find in compliance with laws and regulation, losing current and future opportunities. You may have some legal cases. When this means that the consequence level here, it is critical. It's higher. Why? Because you may find some legal issues, and this it will create a problem with the legal cases. When the Consequence level 4. And this it can happen once every 3 years when the likelihood it's 1. The risk level here, it will be 4 because 1 times 4 equal 4. For scenario number 2, for customers' applications code is stolen, the consequence level is 3. It's less than the previous one because here we may not have any cases or in the court cases. This it will be financial loss, it will be repetition, losing customers and so on. Again, it can happen once per 3 years. Once per 3 years. When this means that the likelihood it will be 1. When the risk level here it will be 3. For the third scenario, the consequence that the XYZ company website is down for denial of service. Consequences level it will be 3. Likelihood it can be happen once per year. This means that it's medium level. When the risk level it's 6. This is the way of calculating the risk level for XYZ company. Then, when we want to make a risk evaluation, you remember in scenario number 1, the risk level 4, we scenario number 2, 3, and the scenario number 3, it was 6. You remember what was the risk evaluation criteria? Whatever any risk less than 2, it will be accepted. But here, unfortunately, all of them higher than 2. When this means that what will be the action? The action, it must have risk treatment. It must have risk treatment. This, it will be the action required. What will be the treatment options here? For risk number 1, which is the critical level 4, it will be mitigate. This means that we have to install some controls then to minimize the impact or the likelihood of the risk. In risk number 2 or scenario number 2, which the risk level is 3, again mitigate, again additional controls. But of course now we are smart enough because we have the risk level and we can understand that the risk level 4 and this 3, then the priority in the controls, it will be go to this scenario, because it is higher than this one. If I have a little budget and I have to choose or prioritize the risks and the controls, then I have to choose the highest scenario. Of course, here this is 6 and it is the highest one, then I have to start with this one. And here I will say transfer. What transfer? XYZ company website is out of service due to denial of service. You know, there are some companies now like Alchemy or Akami. Akami, these are the companies where you will publish your public network instead of your network direct over the internet. It will be published through their website. Anyone who want to connect to your website, they will go to this Academy website first. They will analyze the connection. If it's legal connection and it's legitimate connection, then they will enable a tunnel, VPN tunnel from Academy to your organization with this connection. Then this means that you are sure that you are not receiving any denial of service, because if it's denial of service, then automatically it will be dropped from this website, Academy, which it publish your public IP addresses. Then XYZ company, we took the decision that we will transfer the risk treatment to Academy, and we will get rid of all this risk by highlight or by subscribe with Academy. For scenario number 1 and number 2, we have to start to install the controls. And what is the risk priority? Of course, risk priority is this number 1, this it will be number 2, and finally this it will be number 3. As we mentioned in the risk acceptance, you have to accept the risk treatment plan and or the residual risk. And after we implement the controls, you have to evaluate the residual risk. If it's less than 2, then it will be accepted. If it's more than 2, then this means that you have to start with new controls or new treatment approval, treatment option. Risk monitoring, this it will be very important. As we mentioned, you have the company, they decide to monitor the internal organization context and the business needs and requirements, stakeholders. Also, it's very important to monitor the identified risks, the new risks, the controls, and the risk management program as well. The risk treatment plan, if you remember from the first session, that risk treatment plan, it will contain all the information about the risks, its description, risk level, what is the medication or the treatment option, when it will be controls, it will be installed, who will be responsible for this installation, who is the responsible person, what are the resources required, and this is a template which you can use it for the risk treatment plan. Of course, you have to use one of these templates for each scenario. Here, for example, website unavailability, this the risk name and the description, XYZ company website is out of service due to denial of service. Risk level, it is 6. Treatment option, transfer. XYZ company will publish its public services via third party, who will be responsible to filter the traffic from possible denial of service attacks. Start date, it will be May 2021. End date, it will be June 2021. We have to send the purchase order to the vendor. And what are the KPIs and KRIs? It will be internet service availability and internet access performance. What are the required resources? Monthly fees, XYZ internal resources, XYZ company internal resources, monitoring tools to monitor the internet connection, availability, and performance, and training courses to train XYZ company monitoring team for internet connection monitoring. These are the resources required to implement the controls to mitigate this risk. Who is the responsible person? It will be the monitoring team. Who is the reporting person who will receive the reports about this risk? It will be, of course, the risk owner and all the C-level management board. Of course, as you remember, when we started, we said that this is the company architecture, and these are the departments. And after we had the risk assessment, we can say, okay, it is better to have security risk manager. It will be a CISO, and he will be reported directly to CEO. It will be better to have a risk manager, and he will be reported to CEO. Now, if we in the risk management, gentlemen, it can help you to change the company structure and processes, because this it will be built upon your requirements, upon your needs. Because usually what is going right now, there may be some company or third party, it will come to you, hey, we are offering security solution, we can provide you firewalls, IPS, VPN, divide your network into 3 zones, and they will give you a lot of information. But this is wrong approach. This is not the right approach. Right approach, I have to make a risk assessment, I have to understand the organization context, I have to understand the assets, its values, what are the threats, what are the vulnerabilities, what are the proper or appropriate controls which I need to implement in the organization. This is the best way to understand how you will be able to succeed, and your organization, it will go in the right direction. Then the risk management, it is the process which it will help you to direct the organization activities, processes, and it will able to help the organization to achieve its missions and goals. Any questions? Okay, I think we are done right now. Thank you very much for your attending the session. I enjoyed this session with you, and I hope to see you later in other courses. After I will finish, I will send you today or tomorrow morning maximum the URL for this recording over the YouTube channel. Please subscribe in the YouTube channel, then you will be able to receive all our uploads and you will be notified automatically for it. Also, it will be very important and I really appreciate your feedback. We will send you on the WhatsApp group feedback and opinion for evaluation for this course. Please feel free to write whatever any notes you have. This will be very important for all of us because it's win-win relation. I am looking forward to see you in other courses, and we will publish our Q4 training courses inshallah very soon, and I will send it over the group of the WhatsApp group and the LinkedIn and Facebook as well. And please, if you need any help, any discussion, any mentor in security field or whatever, please don't hesitate to contact me. My information, I think you have my information, you have my WhatsApp number, and you have email address. It's itcertificates2020@gmail.com. You can reach me at any time. Any questions?
Not anything from my end.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Please feel free to contact me if you need any help. And thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you. Sorry, there is no attendance for today because we don't have certificates. We are not distributing certificates for the half-day courses. Then we will not have the attendance. It's just sharing information. Attendance, it will be only for the courses, which is 1 week and above. Okay, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.